Mike Soss. I'm the Chief Investment Officer at Milburn. We are a macro quantitative fund trading futures FX. Past life, I've traded equities at other places. I've been at Point72, to name one. I think when it comes down to the Gen AI and think about the investment process, and that does go from collecting data, and even the first is, what do I even want to look at? That's another question. Then what data am I collecting? And that's one where Gen AI can really be a great tool to collect and package together the multitudes of data that a human no longer can do. Then there's, how do I synthesize and turn that into a trade? And so I want to break it up in those three pieces because I'm not so sure I've had a lot of success with Gen AI saying, what exactly do I want to look at? And the synthesis part is difficult, but the data and data collection and making features works very, very well for us. So I've worked with a number of folks, vendors, partners, even in the early days. Let's parse all the Fed minutes, parse all the reactions to the Fed minutes, and let's figure out the sentiment of what does the Fed think about inflation and monetary supply. Does a really wonderful job of distilling all those different points. The one little piece it doesn't do well is predicting the price action, right? So it can do lots of stuff except make the money. And if you think about what Gen AI actually does, you take ChatGPT, it can take all the views out there and distill it into the wisdom of the crowds, the wisdom of the masses. But the best investments are when the crowd is wrong, right? You don't make any money by understanding where the crowd is unless you're willing to understand what they got wrong and go to where they're not. And so there is that human element that's there that is missing in the Gen AI. So I think similarly to shops that say, we use machine learning back to 10 years ago, or hey, we use computers in the 80s and 90s, that in itself is not the entire strategy. And so I think there's a little bit of irony in the sense as Gen AI builds up, there's been a massive race to get that talent and the tools on board, and they are important, right? You can't run a fund today without using computers, but you also wouldn't just hire a bunch of programmers and say, I have an investment firm. And I think the same way, you have a number of college graduates coming in with amazing abilities to build ML infrastructures, pipelines, use the tools. Any 3 computer science grads can jump in a garage and really start a firm, if you will, by collecting data from a lot of funds and AWS account. The tricky piece is getting that investor wisdom to add on top of it for that synthesis step. And I think in some ironic way, that's going to be the competitive edge, I think, of funds, is having people who have that old school wisdom, knowledge, and understand the markets in addition to the technical side. In a very strange way, that technical side is now, you almost have a glut of supply, or I think you will have a glut of supply of all the engineers coming out and the Gen AI tools. Because from a moat perspective, if I built a moat today, in 24 months, I think it's obsolete. So I think the idea of building a moat to protect yourself technologically is difficult unless it's cultural and organizational.
The people fund, I think, is a good template for a pitch for people to justify their jobs going forward in your sector.
Well, if I'm back next year, you'll know it worked.